What is up, my fellow mobile gamers? In today's video we have our best class for PvP and PvE in Dark Nemesis. Global launch is coming very soon, but there still is time to pre-register and get some free rewards. Today's video is sponsored by App Gallery. They have some pre-registration rewards going on. I'm going to show you how to download App Gallery. We're going to go to the website. We are going to click download and install App Gallery. Then for selecting a country, make sure you put Italy no matter where you live. We're going to sign up using an email address. We're going to create one. Then we are going to do verification with our phone number. And then we are in. There it is. All of your favorite apps, your mobile games. The best part about it is the rewards and the gifts. Rewards are when you spend money in the game, you'll get a kickback. And then gifts. We have gifts for all of these different mobile games, which are exclusive that you can only find on App Gallery. There is also a loyalty rewards and VIP program. So what you're going to do is you're going to install Game Center. Once you have App Gallery downloaded, you're going to click in the bottom right corner, and then you are going to go to loyalty rewards. Also, you will get a monthly coupon as well once you reach level 5. For example, after you spend 500 euro, you can get a 50 euro coupon. And most importantly, join the Discord group and pre-register through App Gallery to get those pre-registration rewards. All right, so here we are in game. I am playing from my tablet still. I cannot wait until global launch so I can play on my computer. So we got 4 different classes to talk about. I've tried all of them out. All right, so first up we have is Assassin. Now each class has 3 different styles, and the 3 different styles dictate the different gameplay that you can do. There's one for like PvE content, there's one for PvP solo content, and then there's one for guild battles like convoys and when you're doing like team PvP. So first up we got Assassin, and you'll notice that there are some stats in the bottom right corner to give you a quick example of what you can kind of take from the class. So you'll see first one, Flash Killer style. It has the highest damage, survivability is a bit low, burst, range, and then finally mobility. I'm going to kind of talk about each one of these a little bit more in depth so that way you get a better understanding. Damage is just strictly just raw damage. Survivability would be how much HP and defense they kind of have, so how many hits they can take before they happen to die. Burst is like burst damage, so the higher that burst bar, the faster they can put out damage. Range is very important for when you're trying to farm mobs or destroy a lot of monsters and they're kind of spread out. It's also really good for PvP content when the enemies are kind of spread out. The bigger the range bar, the wider of effects your skills will have, whereas if the range bar is lower, it kind of means that your abilities don't hit a big area. They're more single target in a small area. So that does play a big effect in this game. And then finally, mobility, how fast your character can get around the map. Some classes do have some really good mobility skills to help them dash around. So Flash Killer, you'll see for Assassin, straight up just all damage. Then we have Shadow Slayer, where you lose a little bit of damage, but you gain a lot of burst damage. If you take a look at the difference, I mean, it is survivability goes up, burst damage goes up, mobility goes up. Shadow Slayer is like your PvP build. And then we have Venom Ninja. This is one that the game recommends for like team PvP battles. You'll notice the mobility goes up a lot while the other stats drop down. Now, when I was playing Assassin, it was actually pretty fun. Does a lot of damage, really good mobility. Overall, a very, very good class. What I've heard a bunch of people say is that the Assassin is one of the best classes in the game, especially for PvP content. And I will say that when I was doing Arena, Assassin is a pretty strong class nonetheless. When it comes to PvP, out of the 4 classes, I would say Assassin is definitely number 1. It's just super duper strong. For PvE content, it's not bad. The only downside to the Assassin for PvE is the range. It doesn't have a huge range. It does have really good single target damage though for something like boss battles. Now, the next class we have right here is the Warrior. Now, this is my second choice, kind of my first choice. Warrior is a lot of fun to play. If you're familiar with like Diablo, it plays very similar to like the Berserker class from Diablo. Probably the class that I am going to personally choose when global launch happens. Out of the 4 classes that I tried, Warrior was my favorite, just because it has a ridiculous amount of survivability and puts out a lot of damage, whereas the Assassin puts out damage, but it doesn't have as much like HP as the Warrior. I feel like the Warrior is slightly better than the Assassin overall. So you'll take a look at Hell Pioneer. We have high damage, high survivability, even pretty high burst. Range is okay and some decent mobility. And then for the other styles, we have Furious Destroyer, which if you take a look at the difference, you'll notice we kind of lose some damage, right? But we gain our mobility. We gain a lot more mobility, but we do lose survivability as well. And then finally, we have our third style. This one right here is strictly for tank. Like if you are going to be a tank player for PvP team battles, you're going to want to pick your third style right here, the Light Asura. This one, it literally makes you crazy survivability. It buffs you so much for PvP and PvE. Warrior, I would say, is top tier. I absolutely love it. Next up we have is the Gunslinger. Now, out of the 4 classes, the Gunslinger actually was not my favorite. In fact, the Gunslinger was kind of like in my 3rd to 4th area, like at the bottom. It was definitely like Warrior was my number 1. Assassin, arguably Assassin and Warrior could be 1 and 1 and 2. But the Gunslinger, I in particularly just didn't like the play style of it. I will say this about the Gunslinger though, it has the highest range. They hit a wide area compared to the other classes. You got Cyber Pedal, the highest damage, ridiculous amount of range. You'll know it's got 4 bars. Also good mobility, but very low survivability. Enchanted Rose, we have high burst damage, low survivability again. Highest mobility, gets around the map quick, has some really cool skills that can kind of always move. The majority of their skills are always them moving. So there's one in particular skill where the Gunslinger jumps up and starts spinning around shooting, and you can actually move while they're doing damage. That's what a lot of the Gunslinger skills are like. And then finally, Absolute Zero is pretty balanced, where you have damage, survivability, burst, range. Absolute Zero is your best bet when it comes to team PvP, just because you have more survivability. You won't get one-shotted by people. But these other ones are kind of like glass cannons, like the Cyber Pedal for when you're just doing your story mode and stuff. And then finally, we have the Mage. This in particular is somewhat of an okay class. This was another class that I really didn't enjoy. But one thing that I will say about the Mage class is you have Scarlet Queen, and then you have this Warp Majesty. Now, even though for Warp Majesty, it recommends that as your PvP build, I found out that when I was using Warp Majesty for PvE content, it was actually working out a lot better, because the Mage has really long skill cooldowns, and that's the biggest downfall. But if you pick Warp Majesty as your style for when you're doing PvE content, it actually helps because it has some built-in passive abilities that reduce your overall skill cooldown, so that way you can spam them a lot faster. Whereas Scarlet Queen, you'll notice you do slightly more damage and a slightly more burst, but the skill cooldowns are ridiculous. I mean, you'll activate all your skills and then you'll be waiting a good 5-6 seconds before you can use a skill again. So you'll just be tapping your basic attack, or if you have it on auto combat, the computer's just going to be doing auto attack over and over until one of those skills are cooled down. So that was the only downside to that. But here's the big thing with the Mage, right? The Mage, I don't in particularly like her for like PvE content, like the Scarlet Queen and the Warp Majesty, but her third style, Cosmic Goddess, is 100% needed because this makes her into a healer. So it's kind of weird. Like, I know it's a mage and you think of, oh, it's just supposed to be like damage. But when you put her to that third style, she gets all these passive abilities to heal up her team. That makes her really strong for PvP content because she basically becomes not only a little bit of a damage dealer. You notice she does lose a majority of her damage, but she becomes a healer. But mage kind of gets the best of both worlds. You know, you get some good damage for PvE content, but then if you are going to be playing PvP, you know, you really got to pick the third one. You got to pick Cosmic Goddess as your style to really go in there and heal your team, because it just helps out a lot more than some of these other ones like Scarlet Queen in a PvP situation, or like Warp Majesty. I feel like the mage is kind of downsized. I feel like the mage kind of loses out to something like the assassin or the warrior when it comes to solo PvP. That's the only thing that I would say. But overall, yeah, I hope you have a better understanding of the classes, and I'm super duper excited. Stay happy, stay safe, my friends. I will see you for global launch at the live stream. Peace.